So let's talk about bringing an OTC drug to the market. What do you actually need to do that? So the first thing to recognize is that an OTC drug is governed by the Division of Non-Prescription Drug Products within the FDA. So what they're looking at is often consumer studies, they're looking at post-marketing safety data, they're looking at your labeling, they're looking at regulatory issues that might pop up. So there are three major pathways to bring your OTC drug back to the market, or at least to the market.
This is the Darshan Talks podcast, regulatory guy, irregular podcast with host Darshan Kulkarni. You can find the show on Twitter at Darshan Talks or the show's website at darshantalks.com.
You file an NDA, a new drug application for the OTC drug. You switch from a prescription drug and basically make it an OTC, or you go down what's called the OTC Monograph pathway. So let's talk a little bit about the history of this, because that impacts what's going to actually happen and why it happens the way it does. So again, in 1938, the Food, Drugs, and Cosmetics Act only looked for safety. In 1962, the Kefauver-Harris Amendment said you want to look at the effectiveness of these new drugs prior to marketing. So the Desi review process started then, and the agency said that they'll go back and review all the drugs approved on the basis of safety alone between 1938 and 1962, and they'll actually look at them for effectiveness or for efficacy. So, and then approximately the National Academy of Science reviewed about 7,000 drugs that were approved between 1938 and 1962. Most of these were prescription drugs, and in total about 300 chemical ingredients were involved. And then in 1972, the OTC drug review process began. So what the experts came up with were three categories. Category 1, generally regarded as safe and effective for their intended use. Category 2, not regarded as safe and effective. And then Category 3, we need more data. So in phase 2, what they did was they followed the FDA review process and asked for public comments. A tentative final monograph was published, and the proposed approved ingredients, doses, appropriate claims, and required warnings were all put out. An additional set of comments were allowed. In phase 3, the FDA published a final monograph codifying the allowable claims labeling inactive ingredients. Unfortunately, this whole process took too long, and some monographs still exist in the tentative final stage. So they've been started this process in the 70s, and they're still pending. So the key piece to think about is, if you're going through this entire process, you've got to decide what pathway are you going to use? Does your proposed OTC drug meet one of these pathways? What are you going to do? How are you going to convince the FDA that they need to that they should let you market your product? But even if you get through that whole process, you need to start looking at, you may need to still register your manufacturing facility, and maybe not, even though you may not actually need to do that for your drug itself. And then you may also need to look at state level registrations, because there are states, in fact, the vast majority of states, require you to register as a distributor, manufacturer, or wholesaler. Now you might say, I'm just a manufacturer. Maybe, maybe not. These states have very slightly different definitions. And I've been in situations where distributors say that you as a manufacturer don't need to register, and that may or may not be true. Stay tuned, subscribe for more details, leave a comment. I'll be listening. Looking forward to talking to you guys soon. Take care.
This is the Darshan Talks podcast, regulatory guy, irregular podcast with host Darshan Kulkarni. You can find the show on Twitter at Darshan Talks or the show's website at darshantalks.com.